Welcome everyone to some Flicker Strike action. Today's video is all about a fire conversion Flicker Strike Chieftain. However, before the video continues, keep in mind that this is a Flicker Strike character, and if you suffer from any health issues related to fast flickering or flashing images, you may not want to give this skill or build a shot. Otherwise, let's proceed with the Ricardo flick. The interesting part about this build is that in one hand I am recycling gear from some of my past builds, but on the other hand the rest of the gear is self-crafted and I'm delving into some interesting stuff that we haven't seen in the channel yet. I chose to play this character as a chieftain because I wanted to try out an elemental flicker that didn't involve the Oro's sacrifice. Besides that, we get plenty of fire related goodies by building around this ascendancy. Having said all of that, there's a couple of hurdles that I had to go through in order to make this feel as smooth as possible, which we're gonna touch on once we get to the gear portion of the video. As always, if you're new around here and you enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, rating and a comment help spread the video to the masses. I believe that we can reach 700 subbers this month, but that will only be possible with your help, random viewer. So let's begin with the skill tree, and it looks like this. And I think that from now on, I'm just gonna do a quick overview of the skill tree without a silent walkthrough of the notes. Of course, there are cluster jewels in this setup and we're gonna go over those later down the video. And now let's move on to the gear. As I said earlier, a good chunk of the gear is recycled, but the other chunk is self-crafted. Keep in mind that there is a relatively high budget required to build the character. Let's start with the weapon. For that, we gotta keep in mind that the backbone of any flicker character is generating frenzy charges. And for that reason, we're gonna be using a Terminus Est as the weapon. Mine has Fortify and Onslaught as support implicits. Optimally, that will be the route to take, but since getting a similar weapon is pretty difficult in general, a Fortify implicit alone should do the trick. That will change your setup to be a 7 link instead of an 8 link like mine. Moving on, for the body armor we absolutely want an explodey chest, which also has life and resists. This is mandatory because we want to get rid of undead effects, and flicking at match speed does tend to put you in hairy situations. So the less crap you have to deal with, the better. One of the rings is a Circle of Guilt. Mine has Herald of Purity buff effect and reduced mana reservation, alongside an elemental weakness on hit as an implicit. Is this mandatory? No, as you could technically go with a rare ring with flammability or elemental weakness or Asmark on hit, alongside the obligatory resists, life and other stuff. However, keep in mind that route means that you removed the Herald of Purity, and in the long run that's going to reduce your DPS. The other ring is a Vermillion Ring with life, resists, strength, gain fees as extra fire and fire damage per endurance charge. It also has a power charge crafted on it. For the amulet, mine has life, fees damage to attacks, crit chance, resists, and fees as extra fire. Besides those mods, I crafted a minimum power charge and anointed Fatal Blade. The belt is a Stygian Vice with life, resists, fire damage, and I crafted the elemental damage with attack skills. Another option is to use a Hunter or Elder influenced based and look for increased maximum life instead of the fire damage. Anyways, the Abyss jewel on the belt has life, accuracy, fees as extra fire on crit, and a fire penetration corrupted implicit. If you can't get a similar one, aim for life, accuracy, and any 2 DPS enhancing mods that you can find. For the helmet, we're gonna Awakener slam 2 helmets together. This helmet needs increased elemental damage, nearby enemies take increased elemental damage, life, and accuracy or resists. Optimally, this helmet is enchanted with either Flicker Strike damage or Flicker damage per frenzy charge. The gloves are next, and they are Warlord influenced spiked gloves. Mine have life, resists, melee damage, and I crafted fire conversion. However, I would have preferred the maximum frenzy charge instead of the melee damage, and in your case you should look out for that. Moving on to the boots, they're also gonna get the Awakener Orb treatment. The end result is a pair of boots with Warlord and Hunter influences. We're gonna need life, fees as extra fire, tailwind on crit, and a resist if possible. Mine are enchanted with elemental penetration. They don't have movement speed, which may prove a bit questionable, but don't worry too much. With tailwind and how fast we attack, movement speed isn't that much of an issue. For potions, we need a Diamond Flask with a reduced mana cost of skills during Flask effect. We're also using a Lion's Roar and a Wise Oak. My character is triple resist balanced, and I recommend doing the exact same thing to bask on the defensive bonuses from the Wise Oak. For jewels in the tree, we're using 2 large cluster jewels with 8 passives at most and 2 jewel sockets. The first one has Drive the Destruction and Fuel the Fight. It also came with some Chaos Res, but in the end that last mod is up to you. The other one has Prismatic Heart and Master of Fire. It also has life regen, but in your case whatever the 4th mod is should be better than mine. We're also gonna use 4 medium cluster jewels with 5 passives at most and a jewel socket. One of them has Cry Wolf and Warning Call. The other 3 jewels have Warning Call and Movementality. Yup, they are virtually identical. We are doing this to get 3 endurance charges on Warcry use, 15 rage stacks per Warcry, 140 crit multi and 17-ish total crit chance. This setup is pretty good. As for the rest of the jewels, we're also using a Watcher's Eye with fire conversion while affected by anger and attack speed with precision. The fire conversion is mandatory, but the other mod is flexible. Things like crit multi with anger or precision, attack damage with precision, Fizz's extra fire with anger, or fire pen with anger. They're all good options. The other 5 regular jewels are divided into 2 groups. The first group has global accuracy alongside life and any other DPS stuff that you can afford to cram into them. The other group has life, damage emotes, and some other stuff that I was lacking, like resists or attributes or reduce mana cost of skills. Try to get similar jewels because we are definitely gonna need some of that stuff in the end to complete the character. And that's it for the gear, which means now we can talk about the gem setups. On the weapon, Flicker Strike linked awakened elemental damage with attack skills, Inspiration, multi-strike, close combat and melee splash. For single target we swap melee splash for melee fist damage. On the gloves we socket the auras, which are precision, anger, herald of purity and an enlighten level 4. If you aren't using the circle of guild, skip the herald of purity. On the body armor, ancestral protector, Vaal ancestral war chief, and both are linked to combustion, empower and inspiration. Berserk is also linked in this setup. On the boots we socket Vaal, haste and blood rage linked to increase duration. The flame golem is also here. Finally, on the helmet, dash and enduring cry, and both of them are linked to second wind. And that's it for the gems, which means now we can talk about the character. And I must say that I had a lot of fun putting him together. Theory crafting what works, what doesn't work, what else could we squeeze into the character, and what stuff needs to be changed or replaced was a pretty enjoyable experience. Gambling with Awakener's lamps was also pretty satisfying and luckily nothing bricked. Sure, some things on the boots and the helmet are useless altogether, and I could have used the extra mod space to craft better stuff on them, but at the end of the day they fulfill their role and I'm happy with the gear that he has equipped. With that said, I'm pretty sure that you can improve the character. Maybe an Awakener Slam on the chest to combine crit chance attacks from either Elder or Hunter with explosions from Crusader, as that could have been a better option. Or maybe combining an increased maximum life belt with a fire damage or melee damage during any flask effect belt. I don't know, there's options and that is what matters in the end. Having said that, the character in practice is actually a lot of fun. Yes, we didn't have movement speed on the boots, but between Tailwind, Onslaught and Flicker's spastic gameplay, we became the physical representation of speed. This character is fast, very freaking fast. He also hits pretty hard, and when the DPS buffs are up, aka the totems, Vaal haste, the flasks, and Namahu's flame thing, enemies melt. However, there is one cat in the bag and that one is the mana cost. And I called it back when I did the Berserker 8 Link Cyclone. The mana cost for anything besides Cyclone is borderline unusable. And I was right, it does get expensive. So much so that more often than not, boss skills are slow because we are completely out of mana, and the mana leech is doing a poor job trying to keep up. This alone is the biggest negative about the character. The other area in which we are lacking is the life. I would have liked more life in the character, but it was physically impossible without investing more currency. And to be honest, I was cheap in that regard. I just said screw it, let's roll with the current setup and hope for the best. And as you saw from the gameplay, it was all good in the end, mostly. I blame Minecraft dungeons for my rustiness. Anyways, that concludes this Flicker Strike build, and I think this is the last one for Delirium as well. Now that we know that Delirium is going core, I'm gonna start compiling my clips into the league review video, which hopefully will come out next Friday. As for the Tuesday video, I'll figure out something. Trust. And that's it for me today. I wanna thank you for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, a rating and a comment helps spread it out to the masses. Anyways, take care, have a nice weekend, and I hope to see you on the next video. Peace out.